Dr. Mary Martin Sloop and her husband were medical missionaries that dedicated their lives to helping the residents of rural Crossnore, North Carolina, when they arrived in 1909. She would go on to help modernize the town and lead the building of a church, hospital, and school. She would also help reinvigorate the weaving trade by creating Crossnore's weaving program in 1920.
Well, the weaving room started back in 1920.
And by 1922, we had 30 students.
The weaving program began 100 years ago in the school buildings at Crossnore, but it quickly grew to proportions requiring more space to meet the demand.
I think Miss Sloop was a person that you did not say no to.
She was able to find loom builders to make looms to put into women's homes.
And they would weave at home and then bring the wares in and get paid by the piece.
The cash income was really important for women in this community.
Nothing is more gratifying than to watch the improvement and increasing happiness of the women who find this means of earning money. It is not only a material help to them, but it makes a change in their attitude towards life. Early on, the most promising pupil had not been a Crossnore student, but one of the women of our community, Mrs. Newburn Johnson.
She was the first long-term manager of the weaving room.
Soon after Aunt Newby took over, we began to be cramped for space in the school building. We moved the looms into temporary quarters where they stayed for about 5 years until we had finished our log weaving room. That building, to my mind, was one of the most interesting ever put up in this section of the country. 6 years we used the weaving house, and then in the fall of 1935, while Aunt Newby and I were attending a big Daughters of the American Revolution meeting in West Virginia, we got a telegram. Weaving building burned to ground, and everything in it.
At the DAR meeting that Mary Sloop and Aunt Newby were at, the ladies there collected $300. That was a lot of money, and that bought the concrete. And when they started rebuilding, Mary Sloop decided to take the children to the Linville River. They formed human chains.
I've always loved this story. They went down to the river and lined up and carried all the rocks up and hand build it with the rocks, and there's different images in the rock actually as well that they put. There's an angel and some things like that. So it's really neat to know that, same as our weaving, that every rock and every piece was touched by these children's hands and the labor that was put in.
Truckloads of varying sizes of rocks were piled into a mound. We begged the children to quit and go home because it was getting so cold, but they wouldn't leave as long as they could see how to handle the rocks. Now we could spend our money on cement. We did, and began to build, and we kept on until we had a weaving building, and we have it today. One of the longest tenured weavers was Mrs. Ossie Phillips, who would spend over 60 years at the weaving room. Ossie wove as a schoolgirl and as a young married woman. She assumed the position of assistant to Aunt Newby in the weaving room in 1939 and would take over as manager after Aunt Newby's retirement in 1961.
She was almost a second mother. She was so kind and sweet.
When one school head wished to close the weaving room, Ossie agreed to work for half salary to keep it open.
She was told that they were going to close the weaving room, and she says, "Oh, don't do that. I'll take half my salary." Half my salary. But if she hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here 100 years later.
Crossnore Weavers has enjoyed a long relationship with First Ladies. The first known gift, a shawl, went to Grace Coolidge in 1925, and then a coverlet woven by Ossie Phillips at age 14 was also presented to Mrs. Coolidge in 1928. Another gift went to Mamie Eisenhower in 1955. In 1989, Ossie wove a coverlet that was gifted to Barbara Bush.
Oh, she was proud. She was proud. And we got a letter back from Barbara Bush saying how she enjoyed it. You know, it's pretty impressive.
The vision that Dr. Sloop had for the weaving program 100 years ago still lives on today as the Weaving Room continues to empower women, help them financially, and enrich their lives as well as the lives of Crossnore students through an almost forgotten art.
We are like sisters here. I mean, you know, this is family.
We're family here. They're like my sisters. So, or my mom or my grandma. I tell them that some of them are old enough to be my mom, but not quite.
It's a great group of women, and I'm learning different things and skills that I never learned before.
Well, I think we have a lot of fun in here. The day this becomes work, I'll stay home. It's enjoyable, it's relaxing, it's just a very giving environment.
Every piece that we make, you know, while it was being woven, there was a story being told. There were tears being shed sometimes, and there's lots of laughter, all woven into the things that we create here.
We understand that this is one of the very few, if there are any left, production weaving rooms. It's a great place to bring children and have them see what it's like to go from string to wearables.
You're creating something in every movement. Every thread that goes through, you watch it grow. And to me, in itself, it's always been a therapy to see myself produce that, to watch the beauty come alive in that.
It's a therapy. I used to say that my loom was my praying tool.
If the weaving room wasn't here in 100 years, we'd lost a love for work, actually taking time to put time into pieces, and making them from hand. And a lot of people may not understand that, I think, but when you've made things with your hands and you produce that, you can see there is a love that comes from that that's different in that piece.
To do the production that we do, which is a large amount, and also for that money to actually go in to support a children's home, that's not something that you just find in any town. I hope that it is around for another 100 years.
The fact that this program and its handcrafted goods have lasted for 100 years in an increasingly machine-driven world is a testament to Dr. Sloop's vision, Aunt Newby's dedication, Ossie Phillips' sacrifice, and to the women who embody those qualities in the weaving room today.